Greetings and welcome to the Fan Perspective. I'm your host Nathan Lyle, and this is NBA Weekly, the show where once a week I talk about a few things that have happened recently in the association and a few things I'm looking forward to in the coming days. And the season is winding down to a close. It's almost over. There's only going to be 2 more episodes left of this. There's this episode, then 1 more next week, and then after that I'll start playoff coverage, during which I will do, for each individual playoff matchup, those will get their own separate videos, so I can go in depth on all of that, and that way you can watch whatever you want, and it's only this short little bit. Anyways, so a few of the biggest storylines that have happened. You've got, for one thing, if you weren't watching basketball at Wednesday night, you missed quite possibly the most fun Wednesday of the entire season, because on that one Wednesday, Russell Westbrook, Evan Turner, and Demarcus Cousins, all 3 of those guys had triple-doubles. And on that exact same night, James Harden had a career-high 51 points, and possibly the highest scoring game in the NBA, the highest scoring night in the NBA this season, because there were there were a bunch of different teams that were scoring like 120 and up. And so that was just a fun night to watch basketball. I just needed to mention that. And also, despite not really having anything to fight for, the Warriors are just being total dicks right now and still winning. You know, they've won 11 straight games now. And a lot of people are going to start hating them because they're just going to be playing spoilers to everybody else, even though they literally have nothing to lose and nothing to gain. They can coast right now, and, nothing would change. But, whatever. I mean, I kind of respect the strategy. Normally you get to this point and it's fuck it, just rest everybody so we'll be ready for playoffs. But, I get what Kerr is trying to do. I get the strategy. You want them to stay in a rhythm and stuff like that. So, I understand it. And, I can't say I would ever do the same, but hey, I'm not an NBA coach. I get to just criticize and not have to worry about what I would do. I'm never going to be in that position. The Wizards and Spurs, they both clinched playoff berths. The Phoenix Suns, they have now lost 5 consecutive games. And so, at last I checked, they have not been mathematically eliminated. I mean, in the Western Conference, you cannot lose 5 straight games in the stretch run and still expect to actually get in. They still have a chance, but it's a very slim chance, and I have a feeling that by this time next week, possibly before this time next week, they're probably going to be out. I think they only need a couple more losses, and they'll be before it's official. And speaking of a couple of losses, Patrick Beverly, he's hurt. He's going to have season-ending surgery. And, a lot of people may not know who Beverly is. He's not necessarily the biggest star in the league. I think his biggest claim to fame is still, banging knees with Westbrook and injuring him in the playoffs. But still, I mean, Patrick Beverly, he's a great role-playing guy. And the Rockets, losing him is going to hurt them, especially in the playoffs, because he's a great defender, which you need in the Western Conference since you've got so many amazing point guards that you have to face every night. And not only that, you do realize he did just win the skills competition, so he's a great on-the-ball defender, he's a great dribbler, he can pass, he can rebound, he can shoot. This is a guy, he does a little bit of everything that his team needs for him to do, and so him being gone is a bit of a loss. It can hurt the team. And there's a bunch of other injuries that I can't talk about because I don't have anything official, like Dwayne Wade. He just got hurt recently, and the last that I saw of this story is that he's going to be reevaluated Saturday, and they're going to see how that turns out. So I don't really have much else to tell you because there's nothing really conclusive. So we're just going to move on to all the games that are coming on this week, and there are so many games where both of the teams have some sort of playoff implication because very few things are locked. You've got right now in the standings, the Hawks, they're number 1 in the East. You've got the Warriors, number 1 in the West. Other than that, so much is still up for grabs. Right now the Spurs, they're as low as 6, but they could rise as high as 2 by the time the season ends. And Memphis and the Rockets, they're 2 and 3. They could end up 5 and 6 if they go on to a losing streak. A lot of stuff could be happening. Plenty still to fight for. So just a bunch of stuff that's worth looking at because still a lot of people trying to clinch and a lot of people who are just trying to fight for better seeding, so that they'll be at a bigger advantage once we get to that postseason matchups. So, starting on Saturday, you've got Nets at Hawks, Celtics at Raptors, Wizards at Grizzlies, Warriors at Mavs, and you've also got Pelicans at Blazers. People have not been talking about the Pelicans lately, but as of right now, they're only a game behind the Thunder for that 8th spot, and they own the tiebreaker. So if you're not paying attention to them, the Pelicans could very easily still sneak their way into a playoff berth. And then Sunday, you've got Rockets at Thunder, which, that's Westbrook and Harden, two former teammates, two of the most explosive and exciting players in the league. It's very fun to watch. And then you've also got Bulls at Cavs, which I would want to see as the Eastern Conference Finals. But more than likely, it's looking like that's going to shape up to be a second-round matchup. You've got Heat at Pacers, which for the Pacers, they're still only like a game and a half behind for that 8th spot, so they're still in the playoff hunt. But they need to grab a few wins here and there. And if Dwayne Wade does end up missing a few games with his injury, then they've got a good shot here to really try and climb back in. And then you've also got Warriors at Spurs, And like I said before, Spurs, they still have a good chance to climb as high as the number 2 seed. So they've still got plenty to fight for. But once again, the Warriors, for some reason, they don't realize that their season's technically over already and they can just chill. But no, they just gotta be dicks about it. Then you've got Monday, you've got the Blazers at the Nets. It's the only game being played that night. Might as well check it out. Tuesday, you've got the Hornets at the Heat. Both of them fighting in that fight for that 7th and 8th seed. You've got Warriors at Pelicans, which, once again, Pelicans, you have to pay attention to them. They've got some tough matchups, but if they can manage to grab a couple of wins, they will be quality wins, and they'll be that much closer to making this game a preview of the first-round matchup. Then you've also got Spurs at Thunder, and that's just always fun to watch, especially when we win. Wednesday, you've got Raptors at Hornets, Hawks at Nets, Pelicans at Grizzlies, Cavs at Bucks, Rockets at Spurs. That one's really worth paying attention to because right now the Rockets have like a 2-game lead on the Spurs, and they're going to play each other twice in a row. So if the Spurs can manage to win both of these games, then they could end up, by this time next week, they could be up in 2nd or 3rd place, depending on what also happens with Memphis, because they'd have to drop a few games too. But either way, they're that close to the top half and home field for at least the first round. Thursday, there's only 2 games being played, Bulls at Heat, Blazers at Warriors. And then Friday, you got a full schedule. Some of the ones worth looking at: Hornets at Hawks, Wizards at Nets, Celtics at Cavs, and once again, Spurs at Rockets. Like I said, they're playing each other twice in a row, which is always fun. And so, yeah, that's it for this edition of NBA Weekly. Tune in next week for the final edition of NBA Weekly for the 2014-2015 NBA regular season. And then, stay tuned to this channel for the playoff coverage. It's been a fun season. I hope you enjoyed it. This has been... I'm your host, Nathan Lau. This has been The Fan Perspective. Have a great weekend. I hope you enjoyed the season and continue to enjoy what's left of it. I am really excited about the playoffs. Can you tell I'm sweating? It's not because I'm excited. It's because I'm in Texas. And we're already getting to 90 degrees in that first week of April. God, I hate this state.